I'm live. Hi, it's Gordy Canucks, and you are watching Act One, a Canadian take on news events. And tonight we're going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking, maybe you as well, about I don't know what exactly to call it, a walking ban, a forest ban, lockdown. I've heard one individual in Nova Scotia referring to it as a travel ban. And to an effect, that is true. There's a guy by the name of McIsaac who has a YouTube channel. He just dropped a video. He had done videos a couple years ago about the wildfires that were ravaging Nova Scotia and talking about this is an individual who's a former forest ranger, game warden, lots of experience in forestry management, and he brought a number of things to light that um, brought into question the true cause of the forest fires that were ravaging Nova Scotia a couple of years ago. I think it was 2023. This is Candy the Wonder Dog, my hiking companion. Candy loves going with me to Proctor Park, a local little conservation area up here. We go down to Presqu'île. We go hiking all the time. There's a woodland trail not far from our house, Butler Creek. Hiking is part of the Canadian experience, the Canadian identity. You'd think we'd be all elbows up. Come on, protect our heritage, our freedoms. Man, this is under my skin, as you may be able to gather from my tone. But before I get going, I start my live videos by giving Candy one of these, a milk bone treat. That's not a plug for milk bone, but whatever. Anyway, so Candy has to do her little tricks, shake a paw, and speak a good. Yeah. All right, there she is. Candy the Wonder Dog. Yes, if anyone's curious, she is a border collie. Danny has already shown up. Danny, you're welcome to um, join the live stream if you like and to chime in and we can talk, interact, and I leave that open to anyone. Here, I'm going to put the link in the chat. So anyone who wants to join in, there's the link. It should be populating any second now. And you can click on that. I'll add you to the stage. I would ask that you please have a camera. It just makes things more, it's easier to talk when you can see the person with whom you're conversating. Let's see what Danny has written. He's written that Canada has fallen. This country is officially lost. I want my pre-2020 Canada. Now, how does hiking affect the climate? Riddle me that. You know, this is one of these things. It's connective tissue between climate and this hiking ban, whatever you want to call it, travel ban. You can't go traveling through the woods, Canadians. That's an un-Canadian activity all of a sudden. This is crazy what we are going through. And I have to be honest. I always endeavor to be. And if this had happened prior, if this had happened absent the COVID experience, I probably would have a tendency to give the government the benefit of the doubt. I think the name of the premier of Nova Scotia is Houston, Tom Houston, and he has arbitrarily instituted a ban. Why? Because of elevated fire risk in the province of Nova Scotia. And that means no hiking, no camping, no fishing, no, going through the woods to get to the beach, for goodness sakes, which is something I do. And I've got as well, Eat Me from Montreal. I have two Montrealers here. And everyone is welcome to chime in. I have a concern, and my concern is that this is something of a beta test to see how many betas there are in Canada. You probably heard the term alpha male and beta male. A beta male is an individual who's yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir, whatever you say, sir. And I wonder how many beta types there are in Canada who, I have to be honest, when I look at this, I can't go walking in the woods because there's an elevated fire risk. That strikes me as the kind of logic they used when they said you have to wear a mask when you go into a restaurant, but you can take it off as soon as you're sitting down. But if you stand up to go to the bathroom or what have you, then you have to put the mask back on. There was no logic to so many of the mandated rules during the COVID era. I said, Danny has shown up. He wants to come on board. I'd love to have a conversation about this. This is crazy. So
Good
here's
evening, sir.
Danny. Is your mic on?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Finally, tried this a while. It seems to be working now with you. What do you think?
I think this is absolutely crazy. We used to have fire bans out west. They never banned hiking. You just can't have a fire.
Right on.
You can bring your little Coleman
Yeah.
stove or your little camping stove, but for a campfire, no go, and that's it.
It strikes me as a smoker, and it looks like you're vaping or smoking in some fashion. If they were to say no smoking in the woods and to introduce a fine, even $25,000 like they are now, I could at least rationalize it. Well, that makes sense. A cigarette could
Cause a
lead to a
fire.
fire. And so
So
if you want to go ahead.
in that case, I would just either bring a vape tool, which has no fire, or chew tobacco.
Yeah, you can still get your fix. But the thing that has me concerned, as I was saying, if this had happened before COVID, I might be willing to give the government the benefit of the doubt. Now, I'm not willing to give the government the benefit of the doubt. And the reason, at the beginning of COVID, when COVID started, have you got your volume on your computer?
Clearly
If you can turn the volume down,
down. Okay, let me try it. How about that?
that's good, just because otherwise you get an echo feedback.
No worries.
Um, at any rate, when COVID happened, so many of us were blindsided. I know I was. It didn't make sense, but at the same time, you kind of went, well, it's an unknown, maybe, better safe than sorry, whatever. But now, post COVID, the radar goes up, the spidey sense starts tingling, and you're thinking, is there an ulterior motive with all this? Because a lot of us tend to think that with COVID, a lot of it was all ulterior motives, ultimately designed to get everyone to comply, roll up their sleeve, and take something whether they wanted it or not. Now, I get the feeling that right now, this is just a test to see if they can get the citizens of Nova Scotia to knuckle under and not go hiking. I mean, have you ever been out to Nova Scotia?
Yeah, it's
I
gorgeous.
assume I assumed as much because I know you're into canoeing and what have you, kayaking and portaging.
To go back to the original thought prior, just though, I agree and disagree with you.
Okay.
The reason being, post COVID, well, unfortunately, during COVID, we found out who the sheeple were and still are. So
Yeah.
that there is problematic. Therefore, basically, only those with eyes open during COVID are the ones that are saying something's ill here now. But I have a feeling if this happened prior COVID and nothing like this ever happened, there'd be an uproar. Who are you trying to ban us from going like in the woods? Are you nuts?
Well, I have a thought, and I'm loath. I got to be careful in how I frame this because I don't know how YouTube's community standards and everything feels about the famous author Thoreau and his book on civil disobedience. And you have a mandated rule in place: you must not go walking in the woods. You must not go, on a trek to go swimming. You must not camp, must not go fishing. You must not do any of these things. And far be it from me to suggest that people disregard the authorities. However,
Well,
I'm recalling an incident during COVID. I think it was in the month of May of 2020 when it was locked down, shelter in place. You can go out if you have to walk your dog, but otherwise stay in the house. We can't meet outside. If you had two people over in your backyard, you'd have some snitch calling to rat you out.
well, don't forget in
And
Quebec. Don't forget in Quebec we had the only variant that could get us between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m.
yeah, with the couvre-feu, the curfew,
Yeah.
Quebec was over the top. But something happened during the COVID lockdown when people were not supposed to be gathering in large numbers, even outside. George Floyd, the George Floyd incident happened. And suddenly there were mass rallies, protests, gatherings with hundreds and maybe even thousands of people. And the political leaders of the day, Doug Ford here in Ontario, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada at the time, they joined in. So one day you're not allowed to go outside in large numbers because it's simply too risky, risking viral spread, sending the R naught number through the roof, et cetera, et cetera. And now, and then a day or two later, after the George Floyd incident, I think that was in Milwaukee, then all of a sudden you could gather in hundreds and thousands. And
But yeah, but
I'm just
see,
wondering what would happen in Nova Scotia if all of a sudden a large number of Canadians, whether they be blue nosers or people from other parts of the country, just came and started to exercise their constitutional right respecting freedom of movement. If there were hundreds, thousands of people who went for a trek through to the the salmon pools in Shetty Camp, Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, what would the authorities do? What do you think?
can't arrest them all, can you?
Well, that's my thinking. I'm not, by the way, YouTube, I'm not suggesting this,
Nudge,
but
nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
pardon?
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
Say no more, say no more. Nudge just as good as poke to a blind man. We're both Monty Python fans. Oh man. I just I think it was in 2023 that I made three predictions on my channel. One, I said I expected to see the declaration of a climate emergency. It never really came to pass. The second prediction was that we would see a new health scare. Never really came to pass. My third prediction sadly did come to pass. I said I saw more war. I saw a major escalation in conflict somewhere. I didn't predict what was going to happen on October 7th of that year when what happened in Israel happened. But I just saw conflict. So I batted 300. I was batting 333, which in Major League Baseball would make me an all-star. But
Well, see, what the government didn't realize during COVID, first off, fresh air and sunlight is what people need. Number one. Number two, you lock everybody down. What are we going to do? Netflix or internet? I went down so many rabbit holes during COVID. It is unreal. And what I've learned about our health system and what they tell us and what reality is absolutely scary. They tell us don't eat eggs, don't eat butter, don't eat red meat, avoid cholesterol. Eat all of that in mass quantities. Don't eat everything. If you can't spell it, don't put it in your mouth.
the thing is now you see so many people checking the ingredients on the foods they buy. And because so much of the food we buy is ultra processed, you need to have a degree in chemical engineering just to understand what you're putting into your body. Uh, you know, as opposed to
But one guy
bygone
told
eras.
me, one guy told me, he said, you stay on the outer edges when you go shopping. everything in the aisles is toxic to you, pretty much.
Okay.
You go around, what do you got? You got your fruits and vegetables, you got your meats, you got your cheese. That's all around the outside.
Right. Just
And then
don't go
inside,
down
you
the.
got your cookies, your crackers, your chips, your mayonnaise, all things you can make at home very simply.
I tell you, and the thing is, our world has changed so much,
Sorry,
but I want to get back.
just one last thing though. The one that really blew my mind is the fact that canola oil, which we use to cook pretty much everything, was actually during World War II used as engine lubricant. And they had to figure out a way to get rid of it. And they said, well, let's just feed it to the humans. Same thing with Crisco. Crisco was another type of greaser. They homogenized it and did some other stuff to it. Now we eat it. Like we're eating literal chemical garbage. But don't eat butter. Don't drink raw milk.
No, I want to get back to what you were saying about, just getting out and getting sunlight, because that is vitamin D. That's so many people now, everything we get in terms of health benefits, vitamin C from oranges, from limes, from lemons, from, natural sources. No, I take a pill. Where you get your vitamin D, I take a pill. Where do I get this, that, and the other thing? These are things that occur naturally growing out of God's beautiful green earth, and yet we've chemicalized and pill formed everything. But
But if you
vitamin
but if you stay
D
away
is essential to a healthy immune system. From everything I've read and understand, if you're vitamin D deficient, your immune system is going to be weak. And we
very
saw the
true.
lockdowns, COVID-19. Now in Nova Scotia, they're taking away a major avenue for people to gather vitamin D. And also, because I have someone with whom I'm close to has mental health issues. And there have been studies done that speak to the enormous mental health benefits of getting out and connecting with nature. What's better than a hike in the woods?
Oh yeah.
And you're going to have people locking down, afraid to go out in the woods. A lot of Nova Scotia, I've been to Cape Breton Island 3 or 4 times. It's very rural. And a big way of getting around is to go hiking. And it's hard to avoid the woods.
Well,
And
going back to your pills and vitamin D and stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, they pushed us all to try to take pills instead of, well, you can get that mineral from that vegetable or this, that, and the other. But vitamin D is the only vitamin that a body cannot naturally produce. We must get it from the sun.
right. I mean, I know that in the winter months, I do take a vitamin D supplement. I'm old. And so now I've got Eat Me saying something that occurred to me. Nancy's writing that Crisco, it's edible, eatable,
Well, so is canola oil, but
not canola oil, Crisco,
yeah, the Crisco,
lard,
the lard used to be an engine greaser.
animal fat.
Lard is different.
Well, yeah, that canola. Yeah. Uh, in our house, when I was growing up, we always had a big jar of Crisco. And I remember my dad used to use it when he was popping popcorn, the way he used to do it back in the olden days, where you'd have just a pot, a
Something about
tablespoon
that
of
flavor.
Crisco.
Something about that flavor, the popcorn and the Crisco, though. You can't kill. Butter just doesn't do it once you've had that.
No. Anyway, let's see what's she writing now. It was how it was sold for people to buy. Well, there's another aspect to this, and that is, when you talk about going around the outside of the grocery store and not down the aisles. When you're shopping in the produce section, though, so many of the foods that you're buying now are genetically modified.
Another problem.
Oranges, apples, grape, everything is now genetically modified. There's seeds supposed to be in everything. And now we have seedless watermelons, seedless oranges, seedless grapes, seedless everything. How do these plants reproduce if they're seedless?
You have to
It's
buy the seed from Monsanto.
Monsanto is
You got to
yeah.
buy your seed from somebody, you know.
Oh, crazy world that we live in.
But it's funny because I stopped eating corn because I was getting, stomach problems. So
Right?
I said, it's been 4 or 5 years. I was at the market and I saw some biological Quebec non-GMO, whatever. I said, it's been 5 years. A cramps for one night, it's not going to be so bad. So I bought a few. If it's non-GMO, bio, my body can do no problem. If it's GMO, my body rejects it.
Mm.
Causes me problems.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I was watching, there are a number of YouTube videos right now circulating about North Americans, mostly Americans, who've gone over to Europe and they eat the European diet, and Europeans tend to buy fresh. They shop for the evening meal that day and they buy fresh meat, fresh vegetables, fresh eggs, often directly from farmers, and then go home and prepare the meal. So divorced from the North American diet.
True,
And
but
the
also,
bread,
but
pardon?
what also in Europe though, the thing is you'll have a whole bunch of American products that are sold in Europe. Problem is like let's say Fruit Loops, right? In the States, it's all kinds of chemicals. It's red dye 40, it's yellow dye this. It's nasty. But when they sell it to Canada or to Europe, the red comes from beet juice. The flavor comes from
Okay.
actual fruits and stuff. So they refuse to poison their kids, and RFK is in an uproar right now. It's like, why are we poisoning our? How can we ship this stuff out there and not serve it to our kids? It doesn't make sense.
No,
Like
we're
if you're
living in
making
the
two
up.
brands, just make the one good one and get rid of the crap.
We're living in the upside down. We're living in the upside down. There are, you know, the these forest fires, the issue of forest fires, obviously a fire doesn't start because of climate change, but the narrative, what they're selling right now, the story that they're pushing is that it's because of climate change that we have these conditions, and because we have these conditions, we have to impose these draconian measures where we're going to fine you $25,000 just for going on a hike through the woods. You want
But
to go fishing?
there's actually some good people in this country because I remember a couple of years back in BC for a certain stretch of time at the beginning of the fire season. Normally, there's maybe two or three fires. At that point, they'd had somewhere around 20 fires, which is totally unnormal. RCMP went and investigated, and they figured out that all but three were non-human caused. So that threw
You know
climate
what?
change right out the window.
So non-human cause, what did they come up with a cause for it?
Oh, maybe it was a lit cigarette was one of them. A campfire would have been another one, but most of them, 99% of them were human caused, and they try to say, no, 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 it's climate change.
Well, this video that I was watching just before going live, the guy's name is McIsaac. He's a former forest ranger, former game warden in Nova Scotia. And it was back in 2023 that they had all the forest fires in Nova Scotia back then. And he went somewhat viral for a time, talking about the fact that in years previous in Nova Scotia, they had these watchtowers that were manned. And the idea was if you can catch a forest fire early, you can go send a crew, stamp it out, done before it blows up into something. And
And
they
they got rid of them.
mothballed
Yeah, exactly. They got rid of them, right?
they mothballed all their watchtowers, and then they had another element that were called helicat crews, and these would be individuals who firefighters who would go in teams of 4 or 5 guys, maybe women too. I don't want to be sexist. I'm but they would go in, rappel down. If it was in a remote area, they would send a helicopter into the remote area, helitack down. That's what they call them, helitack crews, and they would go in and stamp out a fire before it became something major. And that program was likewise canceled, both in Nova Scotia and in Alberta. Both of them had helitack crews, both of them were canceled. And the other element is controlled burns, because as old growth dies and it fills up the forest bed floor, you have the recipe, whether it be from an arc of a electrical line, or if it's from someone throwing a cigarette out a window or a lightning strike or whatever it is. You have all this dry kindling waiting, and so they would do control burns. But the control burns in provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan, and even my own Ontario and probably Quebec as well, they scaled that back, cost saving measure. Can't afford to do all these control burns anymore. And so we're just going to leave that dry tinder sitting there waiting for, and then now all of a sudden, now because of poor forestry management, Canadians can't engage in probably what is the most Canadian activity, going for a hike through the woods.
Well, if you want to throw on your tinfoil hat there for a minute, you can always say that, well, Agenda 2030 basically wants everybody mass piled into cities. So what's an easier way to get all the country people out than to torch everything?
Yeah, these 15-minute cities
you got to move now, and you can't go back to your community now because it's unsafe now.
Unbelievable. And the way to push back on this, and it's not a suggestion, but and I don't care if it gets shared out or just people word of mouth, but if a few hundred people decided, this is crazy, this is stupid, no one smoke, let's just go for a walk to and Shetty Camp, Cape Breton Island, let's go walk to the salmon pools through the woods, connect with nature, take off your shoes, do some grounding, connect with the beautiful.
And they should all wear T-shirts with a maple leaf on it that either says WNC or DNC. Will not comply or do not comply.
I'm not suggesting that, but I would suggest reading Thoreau, Thoreau, David Thoreau. I think the first name is David. I might be wrong, but I know it's Thoreau, and his book called On Non-Compliance. And is this one of those times? This ban is supposed to be in effect, I think it's all the way until October.
Basically until the end of camping season, yeah.
Yeah, until October. You miss, that's one thing I look forward to in my area, because we have this Proctor Park, we got Presqu'île, got my little Butler Trail 5 minutes from my house, not even, is the changing fall colors. It's gorgeous. In your neck of the woods, the Gatineau Hills are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's least of you, but I'm sure you know the Gatineau.
Oh, same thing in the Laurentians. Golds and reds and yellows and
and now we're going to be cut off, or not we, but if I have to wonder, will this kind of this guy McIsaac, this former forest ranger, called it a travel ban, will they bring it into Quebec? Will they bring it into Ontario?
It'll move westbound, don't worry.
Say that again?
It'll move westbound, don't worry about that.
Oh man. Anyway.
But, speaking of climate change, I think I saw a couple of days ago, and well, everything's warming up, but Australia got 18 inches of snow.
Well, it is their winter. It
Yeah,
is
but
their
still.
winter. I know they normally don't get winter. They normally, their winter. I've got a neighbor not far from me, Chris, who's in Aussie, he's from Melbourne. And he says that in Melbourne, anyway, that the temperature, winter time, our summer, that it goes, 8, 9, 10 degrees. And you might get one snowfall every year or two, 1, 2, 3 years. You might get a little dusting of snow. But they had 18 centimeters, you said?
Inches, I heard.
18 inches,
That's what I heard.
a foot and a half. Wow. Wow. Climate changes. I mean, you've heard me. I've got, and we've gone back and
I
forth
don't
on
know,
this
but I noticed
before.
it
I mean,
change every day. My climate changes every day. One day it's sunny, the next it's raining, the next it's cloudy.
Just go through it again, though, the 1000 to 1400 medieval warming period, 1400 to 1800 little ice age, 1800 to our current 2025. We've been in a warming phase. And so historically, these phases seem to last somewhere in and around 400 years. So if this one started around 1800, which it seems to have, just coincidentally with the industrialized age and the industrial revolution, sure, I was going to bring it up, but the one thing that occurred to me is, all this talk about the greenhouse effect, this idea that carbon creates something of a blanket. It traps it traps the sunlight in, doesn't allow it to escape back out, and the heat gets trapped on the planet. And this gets us into this climate change, global warming. The thing that they don't take into account in their models is the fact that everyone knows carbon is plant food. And now deserts, according to Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Ivy League schools, top drawer schools, are
They're
saying that,
greening.
yeah,
They're greening, yeah.
desert areas like the Sahara are shrinking because there's more carbon in the atmosphere, which is leading to, because plants suck carbon out of the atmosphere. And it's a trait. Carbon is a trace element in our atmosphere. It's crazy. But to my mind, this is an excuse to test the limits to see how far they can push Canadians. And then we're a litmus test. Will Nova Scotians, and they've got a snitch line now. And Global News was reporting that they were talking to firefighters and police and politicians, and they were saying, "Oh, the snitch line, don't call it that." I forget the term they use, but citizens can call this number. If you see someone walking in the woods, you can rat them out. And there's an element of the Canadian population, human population, that loves to rat out their friends and neighbors. We saw it during COVID.
Yep, and we call them Karens.
No, the thing I get, and I know this is a controversial topic, and I'm not going down the whole Israel rabbit hole, not on this video. I am going to later, but the Anne Frank story. In Denmark, she was being hidden. The family was being hidden. And the way they got caught is someone ratted them out. Someone ratted them out to the German authorities. And that's what ended up getting them caught and eventually sent to Treblinka, Dachau, Auschwitz, I don't know where. Everyone likes to think, oh, I'd be the one I'd be the one protecting that Jewish family, the persecuted family. I'd be the good, honorable person. Well, sadly, there's probably 25 to 33%, probably 1 in 4, 1 in 3 Canadians who would be the one ratting them out. And that, we're going to find out with this snitch line for going walking in the woods. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people in Nova Scotia who are thinking, well, because this is on private and public land. It's not just provincial parks conservation, even private property. You're not allowed to go walking on private property.
If you think you're going to stop me from walking on my land, you got another thing coming.
Well, there's going to be some Karen who's going to pick up her phone or his phone. Karens come both, there are male Karens too.
Oh yeah.
And pick up their phone and say, "Oh, my neighbor's out walking his dog in the woods." And $25,000 fine. Will it stand up in court? You're exercising your constitutional right to freedom of movement.
I
This
mean,
Mackay.
I don't agree. Sorry, I don't agree with snitch lines. Period. Point blank. But if you're gonna have one like this, they have in Nova Scotia, at least have it for crown land, for the parks, the provincial parks, not your own bloody land. I mean, give me a break. I grew up on 110 acres. You gonna come find me on 110 acres?
With drones now, with everyone having cell phones, we're living in the surveillance state era.
I know a lot of people
When
that
I
don't.
was
Sorry, I don't. I know a lot of people who on like when they owned land like we did. We never went empty-handed into the back quarter. So that drone wouldn't stand much of a chance. I have a feeling in some places.
got Fisher cats, bobcat, lynx, who knows what you could walk into. Um,
Yep.
Back in, I think it was 2021, I went to Aylmer, Ontario, not Quebec, Aylmer,
Okay.
Ontario, out near London Way, where there was a church pastored by a gentleman by the name of Henry Hildebrand. And his church was fined north of $300,000
That's
for
why I know
yeah,
the name.
yeah, for gathering. And I was at a service, and what had happened with the service was being held on the back 40. They had, it wasn't 40 acres, it was probably 3 or 4 acres, their entire property. This is farming country. And they 3 or 4 acres, so they have a large, huge area, multiple soccer fields. And they parked the cars in one section, and then they gathered 700, 800 of us. And Aylmer Police Services sent over drones. And Pastor Henry looked up and said, "Oh, everyone turn around, wave and smile. The drone, we're on camera."
Give him a
And as
one
soon as
finger salute.
oh, well, it was a Christian gathering. We weren't doing that. We're supposed to love our enemies. It's hard. It is hard, but we're supposed to love our enemies. But unfortunately, guys like this Tom Houston with the Premier of Nova Scotia, I genuinely think he is beholden to a different power. And it's a power that's not of this world.
For
And
me, one thing that in Canada that's killing me right now is the kickback over Sean.
the witch?
The kickback over Sean Fuchs.
Oh, I finally know
That's
how to say his
insane.
name. Foyt. Foyt. I've heard him say it. Foyt.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Hoyt, Hoyt. Foyt, Foyt is the way I've
Oh,
heard
so
it
like the
pronounced.
IndyCar racer.
Yes. Yeah. And that's insanity. Insanity what is going on with him.
In Montreal,
But
they threw smoke bombs inside the church.
I saw the video with Rebel News, and I don't know. Canada has fallen.
It's,
We've
yeah,
we've
yeah, it's an
we've
attack on Christianity. There's a straight up attack on Christianity in this country.
Well, the thing is, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And I think that central point, the truth, is a key element to that pronouncement of our Lord and Savior when he said, "I am the truth." And the enemy wants to distort the truth, wants to make lies truth, wants to, turn the world upside down. And so you have to attack the author of all truth. And it's when you can get people to abandon their faith in truth, they're so much more easy to control. Let's see, Eaton's got something to say. I was baptized at that church. It used to be called Saint Louis de France. Okay, I don't know the church myself. I don't know Montreal that well, but there's been going on for 40 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up, but there's a message I heard that I think is important because I think there are a lot of people who could tune into this who are thinking, oh my goodness, I can't take any more. I can't go walking in the woods. I got through COVID, everything that's going on in this, it's insane. And the thinking is, how much more do I have to put up with? Well, the flood. How many days did it rain? Danny.
40 days and 40 nights.
Right. And on the 41st day, the rain stopped.
Like a faucet.
And then the Israelites were wandering in the desert for 40 years before they entered the promised land. Then in that 41st year, they left the desert. Jesus went out into the wilderness for 40 days and fasted. And then on that last day, there were the three temptations that Satan offered: turn these rocks into bread, bow down and worship me. I'll make you ruler. Send your angels to save you. He rejected those, and on the 41st day came. The thing is, the message is that the 41st day is coming. We are in a season right now of 40 days. And I don't know whether we're in the 10th day, the 20th, the 30th, but the 40th day is coming. And
just pray up like we're on day 40. That's all.
Pardon?
Just pray up like we're on day 40.
Amen, brother. Amen. So thank you for watching. Thank you.
I got a quick joke for you though. Before I've been sitting on this one for a couple of weeks.
Go for
it. I started growing super hot peppers this year. One that I'm growing is a Carolina Reaper that's Guinness certified as the hottest pepper in the planet at 1.5 million Scoville on average. Now, tell me, knowing this, what the difference between intelligence and wisdom is.
Intelligence is knowing how to grow that pepper. Wisdom is not eating it.
Fair enough. That's close. But intelligence is knowing that the Carolina Reaper is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it into the fruit salad.
Oh, I like yours better. I have one that's from my 11-year-old. Why do ducks have tails?
Don't know.
To cover their quack hole.
Good night, sir.
All right. Anyway, gonna leave it there. Thank you for watching. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Fill the comment field down below. Would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about Thoreau and on non-compliance?
I'm definitely going to try to find the book.
That is something I would love to see as the top line story on CBC, CTV, Global National News.
You're dreaming,
Hundreds
brother.
of Canadians inundate. Hey, we got so many freedom fighters who went all the way out to Edgewood, British Columbia to help the ostriches.
True.
Well, Jim Kerr, if you're watching, I've met him. Jim, if you're watching, get the bubble bus and travel east. It'll take you 5-6 days and go out to Nova Scotia and bring some freedom out there. Anyway. All right. God bless and thanks for chiming in. All right. Good night.